Welcome back, everyone, to Global Government News. This is the second part of the War on Terror, Liberty, Sovereignty. I surely do appreciate you checking out the second part. Like I said, there's just a lot of news going on. And this first article up in the second part is titled Israeli Group Distorting Wikipedia Info. And it says an Israeli organization intends to revise Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia, based on national and ethnic interests of the Zionists. It says Wikipedia has turned into a key source of information for Israeli citizens. The ever-increasing popularity of Wikipedia has prompted the Yisrael Sheli organization to start modifying the online encyclopedia's web pages in line with the Jewish and Zionist interests. And it says Sheli is offering training courses to teach Israeli citizens how to post information of their choice on Wikipedia, IranianUK.com website reported, citing the BBC. It says one of the founders, Sheli, says Wikipedia pays no attention to the viewpoint of Israeli people, especially the right-wing views. Since the very early hours of the Israeli military raid on the Gaza-bound aid flotilla on May 31st, Wikipedia released information which did not square with Israeli interests, she says. And get this, Wikipedia, for instance, wrote that those who came under attack during the raid were peace activists, while Tel Aviv believed their action was provocative, she underlines. And we're going to move on to another article that this isn't just from Press TV. This was actually in one of the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, London Telegraph. It was one of the mainstream articles. But it says MK Israeli troops came to kill activists. This was August 31st, 2010. A member of the Knesset has testified before a UN panel probing the Tel Aviv attack on a Gaza-bound aid convoy, saying Israeli troops boarded the ship intending to kill. It was evident from the beginning that the commandos viewed all of us activists as terrorists. Member of the Knesset Israeli parliament, Hanin Zuabi, told AP on Tuesday. This is a very important point, too, because this is what I mentioned in the first video, is that if you are a, quote, activist, right, and you're out being active and fighting the establishment, really fighting, the governments, which are / quasi-corporations, you're going to be considered a terrorist because everything is going global. Everything is global, and they're getting people to think global. And if you're not about being global, or you're against Israel, you're a terrorist. If you're against U.S. interests, you're a terrorist. And it's not just the West. Russians, I'm sure, in Russia, there's the whole terrorist thing going on too. It's a global thing, and it all came around the same time, 2001. Oh, well, everybody's against the terrorists now. No, this was the ushering in, the new decade was the ushering in of no rights for individuals anymore whatsoever. So, and of course, privacy went out the window with that as well. This next one is from Haaretz.com, and it says UN votes to keep peacekeepers on Israeli-Lebanon border until 2011. And all over a cypress tree, right? No, but that's what they told us. It says UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said the presence of UNIFIL remains critical following the incident on August 3rd, during which Lebanese and Israeli forces exchanged fire. The UN Security Council decided unanimously Monday to keep its peacekeeping operation, the Blue Helmets, in southern Lebanon another year because of the unstable situation along the border with Israel. And they're talking about, of course, it's always a brief war like that. Yeah, basically, there was some stuff going on. A lot of the Israelis were getting caught, Mossad and non-Mossad, just regular people spying, telecom spies and that, in Lebanon, and they were getting pretty damn pissed about it, and then they were flying over their airspace, and then, they have a piece of an oil field, a gas or oil field, can't remember which one, that is under the ground, that the Lebanese say that, they still have, it's kind of under their territory. So there's more that's going on than a stupid little cypress tree and snipping it. But that's, that's what they say provocatory. And now going back, now they're saying, oh, well, now we got to keep them here. Now we got to keep the UN troops. This is just how the United Nations and just really just the global factions, the elites and that, powers that be, whatever you want to call them, the Council on 300, the Trilateral Commission, the Club of Rome, the CFR, this is how they operate with this I hate to say it, problem, reaction, solution. And so you can bet your bottom dollar that nothing happens circumstantially. Everything happens for a reason. I'm not trying to be Mr. Mystical or anything like that. I'm just saying that a lot of this stuff happens because they want it to happen, and they actually provocateur it to happen so that they can come in and these blue helmets can stay there. So it's a pretty well-known fact that Israel created Hamas, and so they're kind of used as a political proxy every time these, quote, peace talks come to the table. Palestinian kills 4 Israelis on eve of peace talks. Of course, right? Palestinian gunmen opened fire Tuesday on an Israeli car in the West Bank and killed 4 passengers on the eve of a new round of Mideast peace talks in Washington. The Islamic militant group Hamas claimed responsibility, just like Al-Qaeda always does, right? So you have FBI paid informant in Bronx synagogue bomb plot $97,000 who provided terror suspects with fake bombs. And it says the jury in the Bronx synagogue bomb plot cause was told Wednesday that the informant who provided the 4 suspects with phony bombs and missiles was paid $97,000 by the FBI. The FBI gave Pakistani immigrant Shahid Hussein $44,000 for expenses and $50,000 for his services over a 3-year period. And if you're shocked by this, then you, like I said, you might want to check out other stories and read up on it, because the U.S. is paying the Taliban not to attack their convoys. And so the NATO troops come by and they're not paying the Taliban, so they get their convoys fired upon. And so there's little things like this that are going on. And also, we just covered articles recently about how U.S. was funding, well, not funding, but U.S. was giving all this money to Pakistan, which was basically in the hands of a puppet regime and intelligence agency, and they basically gave it to the Taliban. So one would not be surprised when you come across an article such as this that's titled Ground Zero Islamic Centers Funding Leads to CFR. Hey, it's our buddies. We were just talking about them. Hey, guys. Council on Foreign Relations. My first whiff of the news was an unsettling email from a reader of my article Ground Zero Mosque, inflating Islamophobia, indicating the Council on Foreign Relations, i.e. Rockefeller globalist cabal, had a hand in this. The writer was annoyed at my not considering it. I hadn't considering it, and it says here, I hadn't considered it since my focus had been on the fact that the destruction of 9/11 was not perpetrated by Muslim nations, as stated categorically by the New York Post, ignoring the very possible involvement of Israel, which has a history of false flag attacks. I received a second email from the Corbett Report, a video report whose Sunday stories were the Ground Zero Mosque distraction, Israel lobby, Apple, and Orwell. The first with some fascinating information about Faizi Abdul Rauf, who heads up the Corboda Initiative, i.e. the building of Ground Zero Islamic Center, Eureka. It says the Corboda Initiative and Iman Rauf, Corbett went on to say, were affiliated with the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, and support for that came from fellow Council on Foreign Relations members. It says Rauf himself was on the Council on Foreign Relations Religious Advisory Committee. The Corboda Initiative's website cited, quote, Christian support for the Corboda House from a Christian publication, Sojourners, which is owned by evangelical Christian writer and political activist Jim Wallace, also a sitting member of the CFR's Religious Advisory Committee. And he says, wow. So all of these links will be posted in the video's description. You can check this out. This next one is, again, from Haaretz.com. And this is from, hey, September 1st, 2010. Educating toward indoctrination, the ministry's claims of liberalization or liberalism are disingenuous. Under his watch, the national curriculum is whitewashed. And it says the frequent changes the education ministry makes to school curricula share one common denominator. Each smells of the same kind of crass, shallow patriotism that glosses over any complicated issue, forcing students to swallow the same rote, sanitized version of the multifaceted, paradoxical Israeli story, and silences all critical thought. And it said now the school system's main civics textbook will also be modified because it states that, quote, since its establishment, the State of Israel has engaged in a policy of discrimination against its Arab citizens. It seems Zemarai and his staff do not understand the meaning of civics, which, apart from imparting the basics of government and democracy, is meant to offer the tools for understanding conflicts within society and nurturing critical thought among citizens. This next one is from the Mail Online. Ban TV to protect children's health. Top psychologist tells EU politicians TV should be banned for toddlers and severely rationed for other youngsters to protect their health and family life. A leading psychologist will tell MEPs today. Dr. Sigmund claims that millions of children spending hours slumped in front of the TVs and computers is, quote, the greatest unacknowledged health scandal of our time. Well, no, that's for a reason. They're getting their education there, because they're certainly not going to get it in school. That's the re-education. That's where they fix the facts and the rewritten history and maybe show them a few things about physics or biology and say how great Darwin was. He says it was linked to ills ranging from obesity and heart disease to poor grades and lack of empathy. Lack of empathy, huh? Some British children spend as much as 7.5 hours a day in front of the screen, the equivalent of a full year of 24 hours days at the age of 7. And so, you know, hey, it's good for you, man. I hope you can try that. But you know what? I'm not really for banning anything. I don't think government should be used to ban things. I think people should wake the hell up, right? Think for yourself. You don't need this guy to tell you this, right? Or you don't need the government to ban the use of television by young people. No, you just need to have a family unit that's functional and healthy. And sitting in front of the TV as a young person is not the best way or the most constructive way to grow up. Because I think of the cable guy, Jim Carrey. But there's a lot more going on besides that, with your Lady Gagas and Dancing with the Stars and just utter distraction. This next article is titled Japanese Forces Gird for Mock Island Assault. Well, that's, you know, this is just great, dude. You got while the Russians' country was on fire, they were carrying out a mocked hijacked plane over the U.S. with a joint exercise for the first time with the United States just, 2 weeks ago? And then you've had the last 2 weeks, maybe even longer now, the South Koreans and the U.S. around there floating around the Southeast Asia, and Clinton trying to start wars with China on that. And so now, and then the Japanese, who had one of their oil tankers attacked, it was attacked, or hit by a sub, one or the other, but they came out and said that it was basically an explosion. They didn't even know what it was. The good old Japanese here says the Nansei Islands, or Nansei Soto, meaning Southwest Group, also known as the Rokyo Islands, consists of the islands extending from the Japanese island of Kyushu to Taiwan, a distance of over 650 miles. It says, among other things, these islands from the eastern boundary of the East China Sea. In December, the Nansei Islands will be swarming with Japanese and U.S. naval vessels. Numerous helicopters and fighter aircraft dot the sky as well. Sorry about that. This will take place as part of the joint U.S. Navy-Japanese ground, maritime, and air self-defense forces exercise aimed at simulating what will take place in the event that a hostile nation attempts to seize one of Japan's many remote islands, like the U.S. like the U.S. did after the Japanese took them. I mean, this is wow, man. Yeah, so there you go. The Japanese working with the U.S., the South Koreans working with the U.S. China just took over Japan as the leader in the economy. Finishing up, this is Canada opens Arctic to NATO, plans massive weapons buildup. This is very interesting. What's even more interesting, guys, is that on Google Earth, maybe there is other things, but you can't see the North Pole. This is U.S. Southeast Asia pose risk, China clash. Police shoot and kill Spokane preacher. Check this one. HPD officers accused of taking motorist money. Undercover operation results in theft. Mexicans hope drug lords' arrest may turn the tide. Being that the Mexican government works for the cartels and the police work for the cartels and take out their competition, I don't think so. Not anytime soon. 8 dead in Cancun as they didn't pay off their security.